Hello everyone, welcome to Java Learners. In this video, we are going to learn what is add conditional on class annotation and how it can be used. The add conditional on class annotation is a part of Spring Boot and it is basically used to conditionally create a bean based on the presence of a specific class in the class path. Let's try to understand what does this mean. In the first screenshot, we can see that we have a class named as RabbitMQ manager, and this class is declared a component, and on this class we have also applied at conditional on class annotation. In the value attribute of at conditional on class annotation, we are passing RabbitMQ.class. When Spring Boot application will start, before creating a bean for RabbitMQ manager, it will check whether RabbitMQ class is present in the packages of the application or it is present in the jar files which are included in the application. If RabbitMQ class is present either in the packages of the application or in the jar files which are included, then it will create the bean for RabbitMQ manager. If the class is not present in the packages of the application or in the included jar files, then the bean for RabbitMQ manager would not be created. The name of the package where this RabbitMQ class is present, that would be specified using the import on the top of this RabbitMQ manager class. In the second screenshot, we can see that we have a configuration class named as RabbitMQ manager configuration. This class has a bean method named as MQ manager, and on this bean method we have also applied the conditional on class annotation, and in the argument we are passing RabbitMQ.class. So when Spring Boot application will start, it will look for RabbitMQ class in the packages and in the jar files which are included in the application. If this RabbitMQ class is present, in that case it is going to create the bean for RabbitMQ manager, and if this RabbitMQ class is not present in the packages of the application and it is not present in the jar files which are included, then bean would not be created for RabbitMQ manager. In these two screenshots, we can see that we have used add conditional on class annotation with add component annotation and with add bean annotation. The add conditional on class annotation in Spring Boot can also be used to load the configuration classes based on the presence of a specific class in the class path. In the screenshot, we can see that we have a class named as RabbitMQ manager configuration. It's a configuration class, and on this configuration class we have applied add conditional on class annotation, and we are also passing RabbitMQ.class to this add conditional on class annotation. This configuration class also has a method named as MQ manager, and this method is annotated with add bean annotation. So when this Spring configuration class would be loaded, at that time the bean would be created for RabbitMQ manager. But this configuration class would be loaded conditionally, and the condition is that in order to load this RabbitMQ manager configuration class, this RabbitMQ class should be present in the class path. When Spring Boot application will start, before loading the RabbitMQ manager configuration class, it will check whether this RabbitMQ class is present in the packages of the application or not. If it is not present in the packages of the application, then it will look for this class in the jar files which are included in the application. If RabbitMQ class is not present in any of those jar files, then this configuration class named as RabbitMQ manager configuration will not be loaded and the bean would not be created for RabbitMQ manager. If RabbitMQ class is present in the packages of the application or is present in the jar files which are included in the application, then the bean for RabbitMQ manager would be created, because this RabbitMQ manager configuration class would be loaded, and all the bean definitions which are defined in this RabbitMQ manager configuration class, the bean would be created for all those bean definitions. In our case, we have only one bean definition, so the bean for RabbitMQ manager would be created. The add conditional on class annotation is commonly used in auto configuration classes to ensure that certain beans are only created when specific dependencies are available. To understand this, we can take an example of Spring Data JPA. If Spring Data JPA jar is present in the class path, then only the bean for data source would be created. If the Spring Data JPA is missing from the class path, then the bean for data source would not be created. This annotation is used to create optional dependencies in the Spring Boot application. So it means that the dependencies may or may not be created. So that's why these dependencies are called optional. The add conditional on class annotation can be applied on the classes, and those classes can be components, configuration classes, or services. This annotation can also be used on the methods. We have already seen that we can use add conditional on class annotation with add bean annotation. This annotation has two attributes. The first one is value attribute and the second one is name attribute. Using the value attribute, we can specify a class. Based on the presence of this class, it would be decided whether the bean should be created or not. In the name attribute, we provide the fully qualified name of the class. Let us see how to use value attribute of add conditional on class annotation. So basically, this value attribute of add conditional on class annotation is used to specify the classes that must be present on the class path. Here we are specifying a single class, RabbitMQ.class, but we can provide multiple classes to this value attribute. This value attribute is used when the class is present at the compile time. Like this, if the RabbitMQ class is present at the compile time, then we can use this value attribute. The second attribute is name attribute. This name attribute is used to specify the class names for the classes that should be present on the class path. So here we can see that we are providing the fully qualified name for RabbitMQ class, and this fully qualified name is given to the name attribute, and this name attribute is useful when this RabbitMQ class is not present at the compile times. It means that the jar file which contains this RabbitMQ class is not available at the compile time, but that jar would be available at the runtime. So in such scenarios, we can utilize this name attribute of add conditional on class annotation. Here we are specifying the single class named as RabbitMQ, but we can provide more than one classes to this name attribute. Let us see where we can use add conditional on class annotation. The conditional on class annotation can be used in conjunction with add component annotation. It can be used in conjunction with add configuration annotation, and it can also be used in conjunction with add bean annotation. This annotation can also be used with add service annotation, but we are not going to cover that. In the next video, we will be writing code to understand how we can use add conditional on class annotation with add component or with add configuration or with add bean annotation. That's it for this video. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and please provide your comments in the comment section as well. Thank you.